Why do you need this structure for asset protection? You give up control of the underlying assets to that trust. Ex-wives, lawsuits, lawyers, governments, the tax man. They aren't going to be able to see who directly owns this foundation. You're going to maintain full control. You're not going to have the same kind of costs that are typically associated with a trust. You're able to directly put a business inside of the foundation. So for a lot of our clients, we can create very complex structures with different types of businesses inside. But those multi-structures allow for a lot of flexibility where post-tax dollars can stay in companies inside of foundation and can legally grow. One of the most common questions I get is, what is Panama Private Interest Foundation, and why do you need this structure for asset protection? Basically, a Panama Private Interest Foundation functions in much the same way as a trust, but I like to think of it as sort of a supercharged trust. With the trust structure, now we're talking a Nevis trust, a Cook Island trust, a U.S. trust. You give up control of the underlying assets to that instrument, to that trust in this case. So that means decisions and whatnot you can't technically make. You can't change the trust. The trust itself has to make those changes. And so that means the nominee and the entities associated with the trust become very important, because it's those entities which actually have the control and allow things to happen and change within the trust. When we compare this to the Panama Foundation, it's much more simpler to operate the foundation. With the foundation, you aren't giving up control in any way. It's still a private entity, meaning ex-wives, lawsuits, lawyers, governments, the tax man. They aren't going to be able to see who directly owns this foundation. The only document that confers ownership is something called the deed, which is a private document that you and only you will have. The actual public instrument that's recorded in Panama is not going to have your name anywhere on it. So it's a private structure similar to a trust, but because you have that deed, you are going to be the only owner of the structure. So unlike the trust, you're going to maintain full control, which means you're able to make changes, you're able to add businesses, investments, bank accounts, anything to the foundation you can directly add without going through this legal process that's necessary with the trust. What does that mean in practice? It means that this structure is, one, much less expensive to set up, and two, much cheaper to modify. On a year-by-year basis, you're not going to have the same kind of costs that are typically associated with a trust. You want to add a business structure to the foundation. You're able to do that at a minimal cost. And that makes it a very flexible structure that can change over time, over your life, and really grow with you. Now, another really powerful reason why I'm recommending the Panama Foundation for a lot of you is continuity. What happens when you pass, when you die? What happens to your stuff? Well, one of the big advantages of the foundation, everything is predetermined in the foundation documents, meaning that you're not going to have to go through probate. When you pass, your heir, who are your beneficiaries, who are listed in the foundation document, they are going to take direct ownership of this foundation as it is. And that means you don't have to pass through probate. You don't have to pay lawyer fees. You don't have to pay government fees. And Panama has no inheritance tax. So you're going to be able to pass whatever is inside of the foundation to your heirs tax-free. Another advantage, because of the flexibility, you're able to directly put a business inside of the foundation. So for a lot of our clients, we can create very complex structures with different types of businesses inside, both onshore, something like a US LLC, and offshore, a Panama Business Corp, an SA, a Hong Kong company, a Nevis trust. We can actually put a trust inside the foundation to sort of give you the ultimate level of protection. But the beauty, because the foundation is not something where you've given up control, you're still able to operate the businesses, the brokerage accounts, whatever inside of the foundation as you would if they were titled in your name personally. So the LLC, the US LLC that is placed inside of a foundation, you can actually operate as an LLC in a very similar way to how you would operate that LLC if you were the direct owner. And with a trust, that's simply not possible. So in many cases, the Panama Foundation is the structure that you want to operate your businesses, to protect your assets from lawsuits, from the taxman, from crazy ex-wives, all of those problems that can come up over your lifetime. Another question we get a lot of is, in the event of a lawsuit, what actually happens? How safe are the assets inside the foundation? And my answer is they're basically bulletproof. Unless you're the next Pablo Escobar, some sort of international cartel member subject to an international multi-country investigation, your assets are safe inside the foundation. First off, because of the anonymity, good luck for anybody, including most countries. Good luck for their ability to actually go inside the foundation and see who owns it, because your name's not associated with it on any public document. But beyond that, let's just say that somebody finds out that you have this foundation. Let's say a crazy ex-wife who knows about it because she's actually seen this before. What would actually be the process for her to go after your assets? And the answer is it's quite complex. Under Panamanian law that created this structure, the likelihood of her being able to, one, post a bond, and two, have a Panama court basically dissolve the trust so they can go inside of it and take assets from it is practically zero. So it's about as bulletproof as you can get in protecting your assets from any sort of lawsuits, liens. And because it operates as a separate entity, it is not something that anybody's going to be able to go in and take your stuff. So when people ask about the taxes associated with a foundation, the answer is really it's going to depend. So obviously, if you're an American, if you're from an EU country, the law stipulates that many of the events that take place within the foundation are subject to taxation in those jurisdictions. Now, in a lot of cases, those jurisdictions aren't going to be able to see that you have a Panama Foundation, but you still have a legal obligation to declare that, one, you own the foundation, and two, what's inside of it. But with proper structuring, and this is where we get back into the idea of business inside of a foundation, those multi-structures allow for a lot of flexibility where post-tax dollars can stay in companies inside of foundation and can legally grow without being subject to taxation. So you can think of a foundation as a separate entity that operates independently from you personally. And the result of that is, in many cases, you're able to create a structure where you can leave something in the foundation, let it grow, and not pay tax until you take it out and distribute it. But a lot of times the assets you have in a foundation are to build generational wealth. So in your lifetime, you may never take anything out of the foundation. The idea can be to just simply create wealth to leave for an heir. And during your lifetime, that money, that asset inside the foundation is not going to be subject to any tax. Panama has zero tax. And a lot of the structuring allows you, from whatever country where you live, where your tax residency is, to operate the foundation and legally pay no tax. I had a client the other day who asked me, can I set up a Panama foundation on my own? And the answer is no. The only people who are able to set up foundations are properly licensed lawyers in Panama. So we're able to open foundations directly. We're not a middleman. I'm actually a partner in a law firm in Panama, and licensed lawyers in Panama are the only people who are actually able to legally create this foundation and ensure that everything is compliant and subject to Panamanian law. And that's very important, because the foundation needs to be set up correctly in order to not have problems with it. So it's definitely not a structure where I would recommend somebody even contemplate setting up on your own. And secondarily, you just can't. It's not legal. So for those of you who want to set up a Panama foundation, it's a relatively simple process. We made it very streamlined for you. Once you pay us and you contract us to set up the foundation, we will put you in touch with our customer success manager in Panama, who will walk you through how to fill out a couple basic due diligence forms, which are required in Panama. Documentation is, again, quite simple. We need your passport. We need a bank reference letter, which is a simple letter from a bank anywhere in the world that just says you have an account. We'll need some sort of proof of residency, which can be a utility bill, bank statement, and some sort of proof of income document that shows that you have the money that came from legal sources to be able to pay for and open this foundation. So it's a very simple process. Once you get us that documentation and pay for the foundation, we usually have everything set up for you and ready to go and operate in about 3 weeks. We can open up bank accounts in both Panama and foreign countries in the name of the foundation directly. We can open up Swiss bank accounts for the foundation. And as always, if you would like more information, you can follow us on social media, website, thejersway.com. And we also offer free calls if you'd like more information about this structure and to find out if it is a good fit for you.